Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's February 28th. It is 2023. It's the last day of February already. We have a 10-game NBA slate, which means, really quick, to go back to the last day of February, means baseball season is a month away. Super pumped for that. Everyone knows I love baseball. We got a 10-game NBA slate to talk about today, joined today by Mr. Spider TJ himself. TJ, what's happening, my friend?
Month away from baseball means we are a month away from the return of the Spidey Bomb. I can't wait. I'm excited about it. I can't wait for baseball season to come back. But finally, since I've transitioned to playing more on DraftKings lately, it's been fruitful for me. Been making quite a bit more on DFS after a cold start to the NBA season. So feeling pretty good about the NBA. I'm excited about MLB. I was just on vacation in California. I'm refreshed. Let's tackle this 10-game slate.
I'm glad one of us is refreshed, so that's fantastic.
Today, I feel very tired as well, but like in general, I'm being positive. I'm refreshed.
There you go. Yeah, man, I'm glad you had a good trip. We were chatting about it before. So it looked like from the pictures and stuff you were posting, it looks like you're having a blast. So happy that you got refreshed and can finish out the NBA season refreshed. You know, we coming off the NBA All-Star break, and I mean the 4-game Monday slate. If you're not watching on YouTube, I have my thumb down. And if you're not watching on YouTube, you should head on over to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page and subscribe and hang out with us the night before when we're recording the podcast. So, I mean, chat is always having some fun. So, always trying to answer questions for chat as well. But Tatum ejected. I mean, you hate to see the injury to Ball. I mean, he's going to be out for a while. Hate to see that. So,
What a disappointing couple hours of the report that LeBron's going to be missing multiple weeks with his injury, and then Ball breaks his ankle a couple hours later.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Not good. So, what's up, YouTube chat? Glad you guys are hanging out, and let's jump into this 10-game slate because I mean, at the end of the day, it's 10 games, and we got a lot to get through. So, we're gonna cruise through. Chicago at Toronto is where we get started. 220.5 total in this game. The Raptors a 4.5 point favorite. Otto Porter Jr. remains out for Toronto. Ball, Dragic, Green remain out for Chicago. We'll go Chicago first. What do you like here for the Bulls?
We got a player going up against his former team where he's one of the all-time leading scorers, and he's at 7.7K, which his average on the season is nearly 6x that salary. I think DeMar DeRozan is a phenomenal play, a cash game play, a tournament play. I think DeMar is a phenomenal play on this slate. And then Vucevic and Levine, both of them are going to be fine tournament pivots as well. I don't really feel the need to go anywhere else on this team, though.
Yeah, I like the price tag for DeRozan. Zach LaVine is hit or miss. He's a guy that can put up 45 plus, but now at 8,400, it's just such a tough price tag overall for him. Vooch at 8,800, just the price tags. I don't think they're necessarily bad plays matchup wise. I just think that price wise, they're just too expensive here. So no real interest for me in Vooch or Levine. I mean, DeRozan, sure, no issues with that. If it wasn't a 10-game slate, you could make an argument for like Patrick Williams or AU or White or these guys. But overall, it's really just DeRozan for me. And then on the Toronto side of things, I mean, Siakam's 9,700. He's obviously someone that's capable of, 60-plus point fantasy matchups or games. I don't necessarily love the price tags on really anybody from Toronto. Jakob Poeltl at 6,100 would probably be my favorite play from Toronto, averaging in that 27-ish to 30-minute range here with his new team. And, I mean, Toronto loves to play their guys. This is going to be a spot where he's going to be a double-double threat each and every night. What are your thoughts on the Raptors?
I'm with you on Poeltl being my favorite player on this team. I don't really want to get to any of them with Fred Van Vliet being back now and priced up so high at $9,700. If I'm running 150, I would keep Poeltl in the pool. I would keep OG Anunoby in the pool, even though he's played poorly lately. He still plays a ton of minutes, and he does have a ceiling at that price tag. So OG and Pirtle would probably be my top 2 plays there, but not very willing to go anywhere else.
All right, we kind of already hinted at this one, but we got the Lakers at Memphis taking on the Grizzlies. 235.5 total in this one. Memphis is anywhere from 6 to 8.5 point favorites, depending on the book that you're looking at. Steven Adams remains out for Memphis, and then the Lakers side, LeBron out, D'Angelo Russell doubtful. So, I mean, missing 2 really key pieces here for LA. I mean, that just shoots up Anthony Davis on my list today. The usage is going to be great for Anthony Davis. I think Schroeder is someone that is very playable here. And then, you get the guys like Reeves and Hachimura under 4K. I mean, the Lakers are going to be one of the highest owned targeted teams on this slate today.
No LeBron, no D'Angelo Russell. I'm probably going to have 2 Lakers on every single team that I play. Anthony Davis is going to be one of the best spend-ups on the slate. Schroeder is going to be one of the best values on the slate. Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, I'm very interested in. Hachimura and Reeves, like you touched on, I'm a little bit interested in. But I'm going to be having probably 2 of these guys in every single lineup that I build. If I'm not playing Anthony Davis and Schroeder, then I'm going to be making sure I have the Reeves and the Hachimuras in my lineup, because those are probably going to be the guys who are wiping up if those guys, if this one turns ugly.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I know the matchup against Memphis isn't like the best matchup in the world, but overall, I think you're looking at Anthony Davis going, all right, I know Memphis is not the best matchup, but the usage is going to be so good that I can't pass on it type of thing. So, I mean, with Russell being out too, it's just so much usage and minutes, really. Usage and minutes to kind of go around here. So, Malik Beasley, yeah, so many good options here for the Lakers that seem just overall way underpriced. If you're considering who's out. If we're looking at the Lakers, I love running it back with pieces from the other side. It's just, I mean, Ja Morant would be my favorite. He's 10-1 though. The price tag is really up there. He really hasn't had a big game here recently. Desmond Bane is someone that's capable of 40 plus, but just the price tags here is where I'm struggling. I mean, maybe it's a matchup for Triple J, but overall, I mean, I'm struggling to run it back with Memphis here.
I think probably my favorite run backs will be either somebody like a $4,200 Dillon Brooks, or whoever starts between Xavier Tillman and Brandon Clark.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with the Memphis side of this one. I mean,
also, especially if you think this one's going to get ugly, I do think a tournament who is very, very interesting if you're running 150 today is Tyus Jones. He's been back for 2 games. He played 16 minutes in his first game. He played 20 minutes in his second game back. This is a guy that we typically see priced at $4,500 to $5K, and he's $3,300 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, second team usage. If the game does get out of hand, I mean, I think the game still stays somewhat close. I know Memphis is a great defensive team. I think they're second in defensive rating. But I mean, the Lakers just play so fast. Memphis plays so fast that I think this game is going to be such a fast-paced game that, I mean, I'm definitely more interested in just targeting players from this game.
Memphis is one of those few good defensive teams that I really don't care that they're good at defense just because of how fast they play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm same boat. Washington at Atlanta taking on the Hawks. 233.5 total in this one. Hawks a 6-point favorite. Looking at the injury report for this one, I mean, nothing really. Monte Morris is questionable. Porzingis is doubtful. Atlanta is good to go. There's no one on their injury report. On the Washington side, I mean, Porzingis being doubtful, definitely interested in Kyle Kuzma at 7,800 here. Bradley Beal at 7,600. I think both of these guys are high upside type of plays. Right at 4,500 is someone that's capable of like 30 plus fantasy points. What do you like for Washington?
A lot. Even if Monte Morris is in, I think I still want to get a ton of this team. Kuzma and Beal are underpriced for this role. Denny Avdia stepped into the starting lineup for Porzingis last game. Daniel Gafford at $4,500 without Porzingis, I think is a very interesting play. Last game with Porzingis getting hurt part of the way through, he ended up playing 31 minutes. He had 36.75 DraftKings points. So Gafford, I think, might end up being my favorite tournament play from this team. But I do really like Kyle Kuzma, Bradley Beal, like Denny Avdia as well. And then if we happen to get Monte Morris out, then I'm really going to like guys like DeLon Wright and maybe even someone like a Kendrick Nunn in tournaments.
On the Atlanta side of things, I mean, Trae Young and DeJounte are both kind of priced up now. I mean, DeJounte's price has actually come down to where, 8,900 when what was it, right before the All-Star break? Now that it's at like 7,900, I think DeJounte is very playable at this price point. I mean, Trae Young is always playable. We were really kind of curious what the new coach was going to do with like Clint Capella, and the minutes are just not there. So, I mean, that's definitely something to note for Atlanta. I mean, Collins isn't playing a ton of minutes either. Bay has been someone that's really benefited from the new coach, 28 and 32 minutes since the All-Star break and the new coach. So I think taking some shots on like Saddiq Bey isn't the craziest idea in this matchup if we really are going to see him get that like 28 to 34 minute type of range. I mean, high upside is always going to be Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, though, for Atlanta.
Yeah, if you're playing some Beal and some Kuzma, I love the idea of running it back with either Young or Murray. But if I'm not playing up for those two expensive guys, like I will say DeJounte Murray is just kind of perennially underpriced in my opinion. He has shown a high ceiling this season, but you don't see it as often as you'd like. But this is still a guy who is priced at $7,900 who has like a 70-point ceiling that he's flashed at points this year. So he's kind of perennially underpriced for tournaments, in my opinion. And then I agree with the Saddiq Bey call. The last guy I'd want to throw in there would be Onyeka Okongwu. Talking about the coaching changes since the All-Star break, Okongwu has played 25 and 28 minutes. In one of those games, it didn't result in much, but in the other one, it was he put up over 40 fantasy points. So I think he's somebody that if you're running 150, you include in the pool as well.
And for what it's worth, I know Quinn Snyder signed like a 5-year deal. They said that like he could coach Tuesday or their next game. So I still think that I still think like Saddiq Bey is going to get plenty of run here. He's someone that has a ton of talent, which everybody in the NBA has a ton of talent for what it's worth. Anyway, moving on, Milwaukee at Brooklyn, 226.5 total here. The Bucks a 4.5 point favorite. Ben Simmons is out. Giannis is probable. I mean, pretty straightforward injury report as of the night before. Looking at Milwaukee first, Drew 8,700. I know, like Giannis has been in and out and not playing a ton here recently, but Drew's price with Giannis coming back is just too high. So I mean, definitely some interest in Giannis. Maybe even like a Brook Lopez in this game, but honestly, I don't really have a ton of interest in Milwaukee overall. Middleton's price is up. Drew's price is up. I like some studs more than I like Giannis today. So, yeah, I mean, just not a ton of interest overall for me on the Bucks side.
I have literally nothing to add. Same opinion. A little bit of interest in Lopez and Giannis if I'm running a lot of lineups, but that's about it.
Yeah. On the Brooklyn side, I mean, Bridges, 7,300 is such a tough price tag. Dinwiddie at 7K. I mean, no Simmons. He should get plenty of run. Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas, they're both going to get some run. Claxton, I mean, you would think like the core 5 for Brooklyn, they're all kind of in play. My only concern with like the Brooklyn guys is they're all over like 6K now, and we really haven't seen like a tight rotation and like usage yet. I mean, Finney Smith at 4,100, if he's going to continue to play like 30 plus minutes, is somewhat interesting. Finally had a good game with Brooklyn the other night. What are your thoughts on the Nets?
If I am playing a lineup with a Giannis, I'm going to make sure I have 1 to 2 of Bridges, Dinwiddie, Claxton, Cam Johnson, just because I think if Giannis is having a good game, those guys will likely be keeping it close enough that he can play his full allotment of minutes. And so I wanted some exposure to Dinwiddie or Bridges, especially because I feel like those two would likely have a big hand in that. The one player I'm kind of interested in on Brooklyn just on his own is Cam Thomas, because I feel like he's the most likely, if this one turns kind of ugly with Milwaukee just essentially stepping on this Brooklyn team, then I think Cam Thomas is kind of the one that he probably gets low 20s minutes in a close game, but low 30s minutes maybe even, or high 20s minutes in a game that Brooklyn kind of gets blown out in.
Yeah, I worry about Milwaukee just not. I mean, Milwaukee just crushing them. Like, I mean, I think like Brooklyn, I wouldn't necessarily say they're like in rebuild mode, but they are in rebuild mode. I mean, like we'll see. Like I think if they like really give these guys run over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, I think we'll be talking about Brooklyn more. But it's so tough to kind of figure out the Nets right now. So I mean, it's almost is it a whole new starting 5? Like if Claxton's there, so
Yeah.
what, 4 guys? So I mean, a lot to learn in a little amount of time. So Sacramento at OKC taking on the Thunder, 237.5 total here. Kings a 3-point favorite on the Thunder side. SGA is out. Holmgren is out. Poku is out. On the Kings side, Fox is questionable. We'll go with Sacramento first. I mean, tale of two stories here, right? If Fox plays, I think Sabonis is in play regardless. But if Fox sits, I mean, it's definitely going to open up guys like Malik Monk and some of the other these like cheaper guard type of plays. What are your thoughts on the Kings?
If De'Aaron Fox plays, I will just keep doing what I've been doing and playing a lot of De'Aaron Fox and printing money, because he kind of has like a 5x floor recently. And so De'Aaron Fox would be somebody that I like quite a bit if he plays, but if he's out, I want to load up on everyone. Domantas Sabonis becomes Anthony Davis level spend up option for me. If I'm running a cash games or a single entry, I'm going to be playing Anthony Davis and Domantas Sabonis if De'Aaron Fox happens to be out. And this is a 7:00 game, so we should know this before lock, with the late lock starting at 6:30. And so if Fox happens to be out, I'll let Davion Mitchell burn me again. I'll let it happen. I'll let him break my heart again. But the 2 players that I'm going to be really overweight on, if that happens to be the case, is Malik Monk and Terrence Davis. Terrence Davis at $3,700, Malik Monk at $49. I think both just have 10x ceilings in this situation if De'Aaron Fox were to be out. And they're even 2 players I would still keep in my player pool if Fox happens to be in. Players like Barnes and Keegan Murray, I don't know how high their ceilings are or how likely they are to hit their ceilings, so they're not people I want to get to a ton of. I think I like probably Keegan Murray just a little bit better than Barnes. I think he's got a bit higher of a ceiling. But to me, it's really all about Fox and then Sabonis if Fox is in, and if Fox is out, it's all about Sabonis, Monk, and Davis, with a little bit of Herder, Davion Mitchell, and then, of course, a little bit of Barnes and Murray.
Thunder side, I mean, no SGA. Dort, 5K. I mean, Joe at 4,400. I think, gosh, I mean, Trey Mann, I want to play Trey Mann. But I also like Payne. Not to bury the lead, Josh Giddey is obviously a guy with some upside. Him and like Jalen Williams, both Williams, Kendrick Williams as well. They have some upside. The Thunder's rotations are just awful. They're just not fun. Like they're not fun for DFS. So, I mean, looking at the Thunder, no SGA. There's a ton of usage to go around. Giddey's price isn't the best. I really think like my favorite play from the Thunder is going to be like Isaiah Joe.
Yeah, I like these guys quite a bit today. Isaiah Joe and Lou Dort are going to be by far my two favorites. I'm going to be getting to a lot of them. And then Josh Giddey is somebody that I do wonder if the minute ceiling is just there for him. Like I know he's a good point per minute guy, so he can put up big games in like 32 minutes anyways. But I do worry just a touch on his ceiling. And so if he is somebody that comes in at like 40% ownership again tomorrow, like he was last time with SGA out, that was somebody I was over the field on last time. I might take the other approach this time. Jalen Williams, I think I will still get to if he's in the starting lineup, even though he disappointed last game. Jalen with an I, that is Jalen with an E. I always like sprinkling in, even though it's 6K. It's a good price tag for him, but I do still think he has a ceiling at that price. But it's mainly going to be Isaiah Joe and Lou Dort for me.
All right.
If I'm running 150, which I am, that's why I always kind of put it in that perspective. But I would even be slightly tempted to play a guy like Lindy Waters. This is somebody that just signed a 2-year contract with this team. He's been like 2 of his last 3 games, he's played 17 and 18 minutes. And I was watching the last Thunder game, and when he was out there, they were just so active. He was so active. And the Thunder announcers were talking about how much the coaching staff likes this guy and they wanted to get him more minutes. And so maybe that's somebody it's already spent too much time talking about him. That's someone I'll get maybe 2 to 3% of in 150 lineups, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, fair enough. Denver at Houston, where we end up going next. We got 10-point total. Nuggets favorite 232.5. 232.5 total. Nuggets favored by 10. I went backwards there. Getting ahead of myself. Aaron Gordon is probable. Jamal Murray is questionable. Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. Jasonte is out. We'll go Denver first. Fantastic matchup for Denver, right? Like overall, Houston is one of the best teams in the NBA to target. Point guards just absolutely crushed this team. So, I mean, Murray's 8K, but if Murray were to sit, that is where it becomes very interesting. I think I'd like the pain of taking some shots on like a Reggie Jackson, but Bruce Brown, I think, would be someone that would get some point guard duties in that scenario. And I mean, guards just crush this team, but Jokic is a guy that's triple-double candidate today for sure.
Yeah, like if I'm choosing between Giannis and Jokic today, it's Jokic for me by a mile. It's just I view them both as the type of guys that may only play 3 quarters today, but I just still think Jokic could have 30, 10, and 10 in those 3 quarters. And so he'd be the one I'd be choosing over the 2 of them. As it stands, he's probably my second favorite center pay up behind Anthony Davis, but he would drop behind Domantas Sabonis as well if De'Aaron Fox happens to sit for that game. If Jamal Murray is out, I'll probably have one of Bruce Brown or Reggie Jackson in every lineup I play just because of that positional eligibility for both of them. And yeah, if I'll sprinkle in some Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but more so Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, just because they both just had some price decreases. If Murray's in, I'll have sprinkles of them. If Murray's out, I'll probably have quite a bit of both of them.
On the Houston side, I mean, I think Jalen Green is someone we could take some shots on. He's been out for about 2 weeks now. A little of that was the All-Star break. So I think Jalen Green is somewhat interesting in this spot. Outside of that, I mean, Sangoon, tough matchup against Jokic, 7,600, tough price tag. Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. Houston's such a tough team. Maybe some KJ Martin at 5,500.
With everybody back, obviously not everybody with Porter Jr. questionable and Tate out, but Jalen Green is back. Porter Jr. might play. I just really can't see them keeping this game that close. And the only way I really want to be playing Houston players is if I'm playing Jokic, and if I'm running it back with somebody, I would want it to be Şengün. But then that sews up both center positions, and there's so many other great center plays. KJ Martin would probably be my if I'm thinking this game stays close, I want to play. But the player I'm going to be by far the most overweight on, because anytime Houston has a big spread, I always just get a ton of this guy. I played, he was 5% owned on Sunday night. I think I played about 30% of him. Terry Eason, he's 4K. It's way too cheap. He's got a super high ceiling. If he plays 18 to 22 minutes in a somewhat close game, then he probably doesn't burn you. He probably gets close to 5xing that salary. But if he happens to get up to the high 20s like he did last game, and he puts up 37.5 fantasy points, you're cooking with gasoline. And so Terry Eason is one of my favorite tournament contrarian value plays on the slate.
All right. I hear you. With Tate out, you're really kind of hoping Kevin Porter Jr. sits for that, right?
I don't really care with Tari Eason because to me, I'm just kind of like, I'm hoping this game does not stay that close for him to get that extended run. And I feel like he's probably going to be more so taking from KJ Martin, Jalen Smith Jr., and Şengün more so than the Porter Jr., Jalen Smith type situations.
Fair enough. All right.
Like I think if Porter Jr. plays, that basically just kicks out Josh Christopher and Deshaun Nix or Ty Washington. I feel like it just basically kicks 2 of the 3 of them out of the rotation.
Yeah, fair enough. 4 games left. We head to Dallas. We got the Pacers and the Mavs facing off. 236.5 total. Dallas a 7-point favorites. Bertans is out. Keebler is questionable. Pacers are good to go. We'll go Indiana first. What are your thoughts here on the Pacers?
A little bit of Halliburton, a little bit of Miles Turner. Don't think I really want to get too many other Pacers today. If it wasn't a 10-game slate, maybe Andrew Nembhard, maybe Jordan Nwora, but it is a 10-game slate, and I don't think we need those values.
Halliburton is always someone that's interesting in tournaments, especially like if you're potentially thinking about taking some shots on Luka. I like Jokic more than I like Luka today, for what it's worth. But yeah, I think Halliburton is okay. Eventually, like, they're going to get to a point, maybe even next year, where Matherin's playing 35 minutes a night and we could take some shots on him, but his minutes are just all over the place. On the Dallas side, we've got a sample size now. Like, we've gotten to the point where we're getting a large enough sample size with Luka and Kyrie playing together. And we've seen Luka's ceiling kind of dip a little bit. What are your thoughts on Dallas?
I think you can X out this entire game and be fine. Running 150 lineups, I definitely will still keep Luka Doncic in the pool, but I don't really think I'm going to be playing anybody else.
Yeah, it's kind of my initial thoughts were the same way. Luka, I think I rank Luka over Giannis, but not as high as Jokic or Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is just in a phenomenal spot with no LeBron and potentially no Russell. So I don't mind a potential game stack here with like a Halliburton Luka combo. but I don't see myself playing a lot of it though. The minutes are just like Tim Hardaway's dipped in minutes. The minutes are just kind of all over the place right now with Dallas. Consistently, it's Kyrie and Luka. San Antonio at Utah. 236 total in this game. Jazz, a 9-point favorite. On the San Antonio side, Trey Jones is questionable. Birch is out. Langford is out. Robbie is out. Vassell is out. On the Jazz side, no Clarkson, no Sexton. We had some questions over there in the YouTube chat. We'll get to that here in just a second. We'll go San Antonio first. What are your thoughts here on the Spurs?
On the Spurs side of things, Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, Branham, if Trey Jones is out, all are decently interesting. Same with, I put Devontae Graham in that bucket. Jeremy Sohan would maybe be my favorite play from this team. 32 minutes in his first game back from injury, put up 32.5 fantasy points. Someone who's been coming on this season for them and doing very, very well. I'd be somewhat interested in all of these starters, but I think the one that I'm most interested in, like, not to bury the lead and talk about Utah a little bit early as well, but my strategy is going to be very similar to how it was Saturday night. I'm going to be getting to an absolute ton of two players in this game, and those two players are Charles Bassey and Chris Dunn. Charles Bassey, he only played 15 minutes last game, but he almost basically fouled out in those 15 minutes. He was in insane foul trouble. He's a wonderful point per minute producer, though. And with no Isaiah Roby, with no Khem Birch, he is basically the sole backup center. They're not going to be throwing Gorgui Dieng out there. And so Zach Collins himself is prone to foul trouble. And any game with San Antonio can always get ugly. And so even though Utah is heavily undermanned, so likely this game is going to stay close. You never know in these types of scenarios. If it's ugly or if Collins is in foul trouble, Bassey could have a monster game. And then also if he just happens to play 18 minutes in a regular game, the split at center is 30 for Collins and 18 for Bassey. Well, he can still put up 30 fantasy points in 18 minutes. So kind of what I've noticed since playing more on DraftKings lately is where I have been most successful is finding players in games that could be potential blowouts, these 3K players in games and potential blowouts, and backups who are just wildly good point per minute producers, and just trying to get like 20% of them when the field's at 5%. And it's been going really well. The players like Tari Eason, who I was just talking about a couple games ago, and Charles Bassey is one of those guys for me. And so he's going to be the person I'll probably be most overweight and compared to the field.
I really like Sohan at 5K. Came back the other night, played 32 minutes. I really like him. I think he's someone that's capable of 30-plus fantasy points. So just throw him out there as well. Utah side, I mean, Horton Tucker, 2,900 or 5,900. Man, I wish he was 2,900, right? 5,900 for him, I think, is super interesting. Ochi is 3,800, and then Chris Dunn is 3,600. With Sexton and Clarkson both out, I mean, there's no reason for them not to give Chris Dunn 20 to 22 minutes off the bench here. So I like him a lot at 36. Think he ends up being very popular on this slate. And Oche at 3,800 with no Sexton or Clarkson he's another guy that should potentially play 30 to 35 minutes. Huge spot, right? Like this is a fantastic spot when you're looking at Utah in general. San Antonio is one of the worst teams in the NBA. They're what? 20 they're 30th now in defensive efficiency, and they play at the 7th fastest pace of the NBA. So huge spot here for Utah, and expecting Utah to be one of the chalkier teams on the slate with Sexton and Clarkson out.
I'm praying Chris Dunn doesn't start and isn't projected to start all day so that his ownership is not wild. but he's going to be in 100% of my lineups. I was all over him the other night when Clarkson was in and he played 23 minutes off the bench. And so now with Clarkson out, I think he's probably going to be in for mid to high 20s. And it's another one of those players that even if I'm wrong and he only plays 18, he still probably isn't going to kill me at that price for how good of a point per minute producer he is. So he's fighting for that second 10-day contract. He's fighting to be signed for the rest of the season here on this team. So Chris Dunn is a guy I'm probably going to have in 100% of my lineups. If I chicken out and don't have him in 100% and say it's in the 90% range, well, I will make sure that lineup for sure has Taylor Horton-Tucker on it. Or maybe even somebody like Frank Jackson, who is nearing the end of his 10-day contract and hasn't played yet. Now, all of a sudden, Jordan Clarkson's out. Maybe he pops in and plays 22 minutes. Just because I'm playing 150, that's somebody I'll probably keep in the pool.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a great spot for Utah. And I don't want to overlook like Horton Tucker, Olynyk, or Kessler or Markkanen. I think Kessler is someone that he's fairly priced. Markkanen is someone that has massive ceiling in this spot. We could see him go for like a 35-15 game here. So he's in that like elite tier price wise, and I think he's in an elite tier as far as ceiling goes, and then point per dollar projections on the slate. So definite interest here in Utah overall. Minnesota at LA taking on the Clippers, 233.5 total in this game. Clippers a 6-point favorite, 6.5 on some books. Going to the Minnesota side first here, Noel is questionable. Cat remains out. Rudy Gobert is probable. Zubac is questionable on the Clippers side. Go Minnesota first. What are your thoughts here on the Timberwolves?
With Gobert back playing, it does limit my interest in this team quite a bit. Naz Reid has been priced up, so he's not even that type of guy that you want to take shots off of with him off the bench anymore. Kyle Anderson is a lot less interesting when Rudy Gobert is back, but I still think he's a reasonable tournament play as well. His ceiling just isn't quite as high. Anthony Edwards is always a strong tournament play now that D'Angelo Russell is gone, just because Mike Conley isn't picking up that same type of usage. But I do think it's very interesting to see how a team like Golden State defended him last game. And they basically just ran a box and won the whole game. They said, Anthony Edwards, you're not catching the ball. And when you do, you're going to get double teamed every time you dribble. And he just wasn't able to do anything. And so that's something that I do find interesting. But he still went 5 for 19 from the field last game and put up 35 fantasy points. It's not like he was absolutely abysmal. So I think he's got a high floor. I think he's got a decent ceiling. So I am still interested in Edwards, but not as much as some of the other studs that we've talked about.
Clippers side, Kawhi, George, Westbrook. We were all kind of interested to see how Westbrook would fit in with this team. And so far, so good. He's definitely eating in a little bit to the usage of George, I think, more than Kawhi. Overall, it's really tough to play the Clippers now. What are your thoughts? Westbrook 71, George 83, Kawhi 92. The prices don't seem crazy, but with all three guys playing well, it's tough.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's like, I think one of them is kind of always priced to be able to do well. The one I'm probably most like, Westbrook and Leonard are the two I'm most interested in, because Westbrook's been playing very well lately. His minutes not that high, but he has been doing very well from a fantasy point per minute standpoint since becoming a Clipper. And then Kawhi Leonard just looks like Kawhi Leonard again. He has no type of minutes restriction. He's playing on back-to-backs. And he just looks, or maybe he's not playing on back-to-backs. I guess it's just kind of been forever since they've had a back-to-back, now that I'm looking at it. But he has no minutes restriction, and he's playing well. He looks like the Raptors' Kawhi Leonard again. And so I do think he's a little bit underpriced for his ceiling. He does have a pretty low floor, but he's probably the one I'd be most interested in get to. Paul George hasn't just looked that great lately. He had one really good shooting game recently, and he put up a big score, but he hasn't looked that great. So he's a player that I'm of the Zuba of Leonard and Westbrook and George he's the one of the three I'm least interested in, but still willing to get to because like $8,300 is just cheap. He's got a 60-point ceiling.
Finish it out. Portland at Golden State. We cruise through this one. 236 total. Warriors a 4-point favorite in this one. Curry is still out. Iguodala's out. Peyton's out. Wiggins is out. And then on the Trailblazers side, Nurkic is out. Simons is out. And Winslow's out. Go Portland first. What are your thoughts here on Portland?
There's like 5 teams that I'm just planning on getting to in absolute bunches on this slate. San Antonio and Utah, the Lakers, Washington, especially if Morris is out, OKC, and then we'll add Sacramento to that list if De'Aaron Fox is out. Portland's another one of these teams. Damian Lillard is my favorite spend up on the slate. Golden State should be able to keep it close, and I do not think that they have anybody who's going to be capable of defending him. I don't think Clay is going to be able to stay with Dame. I know Jordan Poole sure as heck can't. DiVincenzo is probably going to be the guy that they put on him, and he's a solid defender, but Lillard's just on another planet right now. Most 70 plus games in NBA history, or maybe it was 60 plus games in NBA history. Sorry, I can't remember which one of the two it was, but it was 1 Wilt Chamberlain, 2 Kobe Bryant, 3 Damian Lillard, tied with Michael Jordan, and 2 of them have come in the last week and a half. Damian Lillard's my favorite spend up on the slate. I'm interested in getting to some Jeremy Grant, some Cam Reddish, maybe a little Nasir Little, but for me, it's just I want 50% Damian Lillard today.
Yeah, Dame time. Another guy that's, up towards the top when we are, just thinking about overall ceiling and upside on this slate. So, ton of interest in Lillard. After him, though, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, it's easy to say just play Lillard after scoring 71 actual points the other night. 71 actual points.
And the fact that this is at 9 p.m. too, last game of the slate, it just makes me want to have whatever the field has of Lillard get twice that much and just watch my teams rise the standings after all the games are done.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. And I definitely don't mind the Little call. I think he's really interesting here for tournaments. Golden State side, no Wiggins still. I mean, Draymond 6,800, I think, is a fair price tag. I think Jordan Poole is someone we can definitely look at, even at 8,500. He's had some big games against this team this year. Clay's had some big games too. I mean, I don't mind if I'm playing Lillard running it back with Poole or Clay. I don't know if I'd play them both. What are your thoughts on the Warriors?
Yeah, I really like Poole and Clay. I don't think I'll set a rule that I'd want to limit it to one of them, but maybe something like max 2 of Poole, Thompson, Draymond Green, and Dante DiVincenzo, something like that. I think Kevon Looney and Jonathan Kuminga are fine targets for when Draymond Green is out, but with him probable, unless we see a midday downgrade or something from him, I think it's really mostly going to be about Poole and Thompson for me, and then maybe a little bit of Draymond and DiVincenzo. But I even don't think I need really them too much.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Favorite play under 5,000 to go 7x. Who do you got today?
Chris Nunn.
I am shocked. I'm going to go Malik Beasley for the Lakers. Over 8K to go under 5X. Who's your bust today?
Bust of the day today, I'm going to go with Fred VanVleet.
I'm going to stay in that same spot. I'm going to go Siakam. I think, yeah, I just don't like Siakam today. I mean, I almost said Giannis for what it's worth. Favorite 6X play today? Who do you got?
Taylor Norton Tucker.
All right. I'm gonna go Sohan because I hate playing the Spurs. I really do, but I think with him at 5K, I think he has a good chance to get over 30 fantasy points today. Let's get your GPP play of the day.
Gonna go Charles Bassey.
Do you know when you were talking about it, I was like, that's who he's gonna pick. Earlier, I was like, he probably already has it written down. I don't know
It's
how
just
weird
like
this.
I think Sacramento and OKC also played on Saturday night, or maybe it was Sunday night or something. I had a very profitable weekend for NBA, like both nights back to back on Saturday. I finished first and second and fifth in my MME GPP, and then on Sunday my single entries all finished like top 5 in their GPPs. So it was a really good weekend. And so many of these games just kind of feel like repeats of the weekend. And so I'm planning on just going back to the well on all the things, because the guys that I liked before are just in better positions than they were on the weekend, because even more guys are out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know how weird this is, but I think he's just going to kind of be overlooked by the value on his own team. But give me Walker Kessler today. I think a lot of people are going to go to the guards for Utah today, but I mean, Kessler's in a good spot. He's capable of like big block type of games. And I mean, San Antonio is just an offense. It's not good this year. They're not good this year. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope. I think that's about it. I'm targeting about 3 or 4 of these games as kind of my big either game stack or a couple players up from them that I'm looking to get massively overweight on, and that's going to be in my core. I'm looking at Damian Lillard followed by the San Antonio Utah game, the Sacramento OKC game, and then some pieces of Washington and LA as well. And that's going to be where the vast majority of my lineups are built after.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow talking some hoops. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday, and we'll see you again tomorrow.